Hi, I'm Chris from Development. Let's take a look at running the demo project for Coronium SkyTable. And here I'm at the documentation site. We're basically going to be covering what's in the client guide here at the beginning. And to get a hold of the demo, it's on GitHub. It's the Coronium SkyTable demo, and there'll be a link at the bottom. And then we go over here and clone or download, and then you download the zip, and then you'll extract that zip. And I've already done this part, and then you'll open that up into whatever editor that you like to use. So with that, I'm going to jump over to Visual Code here, and we can see this is the demo. You can see the Corona project here. It's extremely simple, just to show a connection and then just a few of the basics, and then you can dive into the documentation for more details on most of this stuff here. So I went ahead and already spun up a SkyTable server. So I have the IP put in here with my port, which is 7173, and that's covered in the installation video if you're interested. The default key for a server is already in place here. You can change that. Again, reference the documentation. And once we have an initialization set up, which requires a user of some type, and generally that would be an email address, a password, the base of the app, which is a way to kind of tag a certain set of data for one specific app. So you can have the same user and password, but then you could change the base to something like app2, and then you'll be referencing a completely different scope for your data. And then the key again is something that is set on the server side through the configuration, and that kind of gives you a way to make sure that the requests are matching up to the proper server. And then you pop in your host address. This is your server and the port. And then there's also a debug flag, which we're going to be using, which will output basically the structure of the data here in our Corona simulator console. So the first thing we do after we have our initialization set up is we select whatever SkyTable we want to work with, and this can either exist or not exist, and we basically just take a variable and we assign it the return value of this SkyTable open method here, and then we pass the name that we want to use. And in this case we're making one called profile, so I'm just making it simple. I'm naming the variable the same as the table we're actually opening. And then from there, there's just a few of the basics, some methods some functions that I've set up here for setting data, getting some data, and then deleting data. And then down here at the bottom are test methods, and then we uncomment these as we go through testing them out. So the first thing we want to do is set some data, since currently we don't have any data for this profile SkyTable, and we can actually verify that by commenting out the get data method here, and then we'll run a save on that. And then let's take a look at our console here, and because I have the debug on, we're getting this response here, and we have nil. It's printing it twice because I'm actually echoing it out as well in the script. So we know that we don't have any data in that profile table, so what we'll do is we'll set some data, and up here in the set data function we just create a simple data table. This is just kind of going through some different data types that we can send there. We got a string, a boolean, here's an array, here's another table object inside the table here with a few items. And then once we have that set up, we're going to just push that onto the profile SkyTable. And to do that, we do the name of the SkyTable variable that we referenced, and then this is the set method. We pass the data, which is what I've set here as D, it's this table here, and then a return function. This can be set outside as a kind of a listener function, or you can just do it inline anonymously like I'm doing here. And every SkyTable method will return will return the event, and in this event then we have properties we can check. So for the set event, actually all events have an isError property, and if that is true, then we want to print that error out and see what that is. Otherwise, for a set event, there is this success flag, and this will tell us if the set was successful. And if it was, then I'm just printing saved. I could get more elaborate and print some other things out here if that wasn't the case. And so what this will do is set the data for that profile SkyTable. This is kind of the root based data. And you always have to set an initial object onto a SkyTable. So I'm in the set table, set data, and our response here is saved, so we can be sure that that's happened. And now we can pull this profile table back using getData. Let's take a look at that method real quick. In the getData here, it's pretty simple. We're just again referencing the SkyTable profile, and then the method for getting the data is get. We pass the function in for the return, and in the event again is an isError property, and then in any of the data retrieval methods, it's you have a data property here, and that will contain your data, whatever that is. And in this case, that should contain the entire data table that we sent up. So let's go ahead and we'll just again, we're running the getData method. I'm going to save it, and we're going to get a refresh here. And this here is just telling, this is the echo from that event.data, and it's a table. And then this is the debug response, and it's kind of giving us the an overview of what's contained in that table. So these are the different properties and things that we set, and this came from the SkyTable server. If we want to delete data, we can do that using the delete data method. And in this delete data method, we're doing a referencing the SkyTable, running a delete, and then we have our event back, which is isError, and then we can also check the data. And in for a delete method, the data property is going to be the either 1 or 0 generally, and that's going to indicate how many items were deleted. So in most cases, you're just deleting one item at a time. We just deleted the main root table for this profile SkyTable. And I already hit save, so it refreshed once. So here is the result. We got a 1 back because it indeed deleted one object, this table basically. So that's the basics of that. Now we can also, let's go ahead and repopulate our data object since we just erased it. So we're saved, so we should have that back again. And let's look at some of the different options that we can do with the get data when we can use named paths or key paths. And so again, we have our data here, and let's go into our get method, and we can, if we want to just access the root object, which is what's in there right now, we just pass it this function. We can also navigate to a specific key by providing it with a path. So in our data object here, you can see we have these various items. If I wanted to get, let's say, just the active value, then I can just provide active as a key, and then I'll get this true value back in my return, and that's matches up with this. And you can also go in nested levels. So if I wanted to get the rank for this game here, I can say game rank, and when I refresh it, then I'll get that rank there. So that's what data paths can do, and those are kind of cool. But again, if you just want the root, you don't have to provide that. It works the same way for set. So if I wanted to set a specific value, let's say I'm over here in my set method here, if I wanted to set a specific value, then I can provide it with the path and the data. So let's say I wanted to change the rank. I can do game rank as my key path, and then the data I want to set that to. So let's just say master. And now when I reset this and we look at it, whoops, I'm running the wrong method here. Let's run the set method. And we got saved, so that's good. And then we'll pop back over here and pull this data again. And now the rank is master for that item. And we can do something similar for the array that's in there. If we wanted to get the data, let's just get that array. So that was the key for that array was colors. And if everything goes well, then this event.data will be a table. So we can just go ahead and reference one of the values in there. And here's our value that we just echoed out. That was green. And then here's the debug output for the colors array. So value index 2 was green, so that worked right. And so that's pretty much the basics of kind of working with a SkyTable. There's much more details in the documentation. There's some other features that you can do and different things, different ways to work with your data. But that covers the basics of it. So go ahead and have at it. Thanks for watching.